What's shaking, everybody? Ross Mandell here with Scott Woolley Studios in beautiful Delray Beach, Florida. And what a treat I have for you all today. He's a stud. This guy walks in and you see it right away. He's a top producer. He's been awarded. He's been noted. He's been denoted. I mean, this guy is the real thing. In his early 40s, on the come up, and it's a privilege to meet Steve Giordano today.
My man, what an introduction.
Stevie, so great to have you here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
He's a beautiful looking man. Ladies, he's married, but I am taking applications for, monkey business. What's shaking, man? You look great.
Thank you, sir. So do you.
Thank you. I'm so old. It's crazy, but I'm trying hard. I'm trying.
That's all we can do, right?
I hit the gym twice, do some weights, cardio, abs, and then I'm pulverized for 2 days.
Yeah?
Oh, it's not easy. Enjoy young youth. It's crazy, bro.
Amen.
My bones ache. I get out of bed, I'm stiff. It's like, what the hell? You got a beautiful smile. So I'd like to dial the clock back and get to who you really are as a guy. I know you've been decorated and awarded and recognized and all these great things. But who is Steve Giordano? Where you from? Where'd you grow up?
Long Island, New York.
Love it.
Seems like eons ago.
It does, trust me. Long Island is in the house today. All three of us are from New York.
That's right.
Nassau, Suffolk.
Yankees or Mets?
I grew up a Mets fan,
okay,
but I married a girl from the Bronx who grew up like literally a few blocks from Yankee Stadium. So I'm a New York fan.
Okay.
Jets and Giants.
Got it.
Knicks, not so much Nets. Although I loved the Nets growing up. We had Rick Barry and we had the red and white ball. It's before your time, before the merger of the leagues.
Mm-hmm.
There was the ABA with Julius Erving, and it was pretty cool. So you grew up out on the island,
mm-hmm.
and what was it like growing up? Brothers, sisters, family?
Got a younger brother,
Okay.
Italian, if you couldn't tell.
You're the oldest?
I'm the oldest, yeah. So, it was amazing being in New York and then just, family, Italian, good group of friends growing up there, a lot of awesome memories. It's funny thinking back on kind of as you grew up and the things, and then you move away and you move to Florida, and it's like a whole nother life.
It's a whole nother life.
And, great parents, good upbringing. My dad, he was a heavy equipment operator. He's, no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago. Had, Parkinson's. Mom's still here. She actually is down here for the week with me. But
just for the week.
Just for the week.
She's still hanging into New York.
Yeah. We'll see how long that lasts. You know how that goes. They all get down here eventually.
If she got through the winter, she's got a good summer. The island's beautiful in the spring and summer.
Correct, and then it turns.
Yeah, I've heard of my friend Stevie, one of my partners. He's up in New York. His daughter has a store out on Long Island, and son is a very successful financial guy. Broker in Manhattan. So he was up there for 5 days. He calls me up. He goes, I don't miss New York. It's rainy. It's windy. It's like 40, 50. It's not freezing, but it's just
gray.
Nasty.
There's a lot of gray.
When it rains here, who cares? It's like, give me a break. You know what I mean? The sun is just like, it's so beautiful here. It's too hot in the summer. But once you have the wherewithal, you travel in the summer. You can do things, right? So you had a great childhood growing up. That's so cool. Parents were together, right? You're the oldest in the family?
Yeah, the oldest, yeah.
Yeah. Do your mom make like gravy on Sunday?
Yeah, it's all the Italian food on Sundays. That was the thing back in the day. I was heavier when I was younger, and then I got into fitness in my 20s.
Now, you're a big kid. Were you an athlete in high school?
Yeah, I played football, basketball. I was in chorus, so I was big time into singing and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Chorus?
Yeah.
I never would have suspected that.
Yeah, I think I have a decent voice.
Really?
Yeah. And, what it was, I played sports and then I wanted to work. Like, it was one of those things like you want a car, or you want to have money. And early on, I was like, okay, like I can either keep playing sports or I can work.
Right.
In hindsight, I'm thinking back, I probably should have kept playing some sports, and just let it ride. But I got into working in hospitality when I was, in high school.
Really?
And I just got into wanting to make money.
I love it. we all have different journeys, but I really love to just unpack a little bit, because we all started as kids, right? And it's very interesting, the different stories. So, like, I had Hector Lombard. He's a world famous MMA fighter.
Okay.
He's the Bellator champion, light heavyweight champion 2 times. UFC is a top 5 fighter. Fought for the championship, didn't win, but he was top 5 always. He's the PFL champion. He was a bare knuckle fighting champion at 205. He was an Olympian in judo. And, I asked him about his childhood. He grew up in Cuba. He says his father used to beat the shit out of him.
Mm.
His father was an alcoholic who hated him. I'm sitting there, I don't know what to say to that, and he left home when he was 11. You know what I mean? Like, so you don't know.
Correct.
And he talked about the abuse that he took. And this guy's a killer. I mean, he was on the Cuban judo team, defected to Australia, became an MMA fighter, all these different things. But you had a nice childhood. I mean, you had for God's sakes, football, basketball, and chorus.
Yeah.
You're really well-rounded.
Yeah, for sure.
I could see why you went into the insurance business. I mean, there's a degree of certainty when you sell life insurance. I also, just so you know, started E.F. Hutton. I was registered in February 1984. I got my life and health license in that. I did a little bit, but not much, and I quickly moved to securities and big-ticket retail, et cetera. But you seem to have a quality upbringing, and I hope that's not lost on everybody, because I feel like there's something wrong in this country. The people I interview, I mean, literally for the last 4 or 5 months, very few can say they had a good upbringing, a normal upbringing. A lot of single family divorcees and deaths and all. My father passed away. My mother was a widow, etc. So, did you go to college?
I did. I actually went to college to be a chef. So when I started working, it's crazy, right? to go from that to being an
culinary. Let's go.
So I started working in restaurants and in hospitality. I'm like, oh man, I really like cooking, this and that. And I went to be a chef. I went to New York Institute of Technology. I got a culinary associate's and a bachelor's degree in management. And then once I kind of got into the management side, I was like, okay, let me kind of go that route as opposed to like kind of killing myself cooking.
Right.
Because I kind of like that step back of running stuff. And I was running hotels, I was running catering halls, and that was kind of like my thing.
Really?
Yeah, throughout college. And it served me well for the time. It was what it was.
It's an experience. Like,
Yeah.
It's all how you organize it in your mind, really. These are great experiences. Obviously, I wouldn't be shocked if one day you owned a restaurant or a hotel. I mean,
yeah, for sure. From a business perspective, absolutely. I loved it from the creativity side of that business. The thing that over time, because I think I was in it probably 15, 16 years, was just the nights, the weekends, the holidays. Like, you got to work when everybody else wants to be off.
It's relaxing. Right?
Yeah. But I was always able to make money, have a living. I moved multiple states. I went from New York to Pennsylvania to Tennessee to Florida. So
this went on for years.
Literally from 15 to 30 something. It was almost 17 years, 18 years, something like that.
And how old were you when you got married?
Let's see, what am I, 43 now? 6 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so this is before you were single during these years.
I
was
married. If we want to have some adversity in
Yep.
here, because I don't want everybody to think like my
Let's
life
go.
is perfect.
Let's go.
I was divorced.
Oh,
once.
so you were married to, and you got married when you were very young?
No, I was 30. Yeah, about 30.
It's not so young, right?
Yeah.
And then you got divorced. Now you're on your second family, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any kids with the first wife?
No.
Okay, thank God for that,
Thank
right?
God for that.
Okay, and I didn't realize you had this culinary background, this hospitality background.
Yeah, that was like my thing that I did for all those years and did well, served me well. I ran multiple restaurants. I was with Darden Restaurants for a long time with Red Lobster, which is a good
big
company.
name, yeah.
Big name. But it just got to a point where I just felt I didn't have that next level where I could really make the money that I wanted to make.
Right.
Like
I do get it.
Like, for a long time I was like, okay, like, you're good at this, you can do it, but can you really make the money you want to make without completely sacrificing and moving all over the country for different positions?
Right. I guess you have to have your own hotel, your own restaurant to really make that kind of coin, really.
For sure, unless you're in the corporate scenario and you just become, if it's regional vice president or where you're literally running like half of a country's
and work
restaurants.
your way up the ladder, so to speak.
Yeah, but we're talking that takes years, and those positions do not grow on trees,
right.
and
years.
You got to be willing to move all over the place for it. And I got to a point, I just, after moving to 4 or 5 states, I was like, I need more.
Yeah, for me, I discovered Wall Street that I could just get on the phone, I could make a sale.
Yeah.
And I get paid on the 15th of the next month.
Mm-hmm.
And there were guys making $100,000 a month, $200,000 a month. And I get paid on the 15th of the next month. And I said, really? Why would I want to do anything else?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really?
Yep.
Because I was in different businesses where you got an order in January, it had to be manufactured. The goods had to be manufactured and shipped. Then the store had to actually put them out, and they maybe paid you, November. And I would get paid by the company in December. I'm like, what? I don't get it. I make $1 million sale in January. I'm not getting paid till October, November. I didn't get it. Why would somebody want to be in that business?
Yeah.
I was thrust into it, but I didn't really know that much about it. And then when the opportunity to be on the phone in an office in New York, I mean, I'd kill myself. You really have to work. Don't make me, make it sound like it's easy peasy. But I was getting paid, in less than 30 days. And I suppose that's something that you like. You sell an insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually helping to protect somebody's loved ones. That's how I always look at it,
100%.
And I want to get to this now. So you're actually running restaurants or hotels, right?
Yep. Multiple, yeah.
And you're just moving around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're married, you're divorced. And tell us, about the pivot, the transition.
Yeah. The pivot, it's so interesting because when you look back on your life and you see that pivotal moment of where you had to make the move. So, I get divorced. I'm in Tennessee. I'm there for, I don't know, maybe 18 months. And I had a decision to make. It was either move back to New York, live in Tennessee, which I like Tennessee, but I was like a fish out of water. Like, clearly I don't look like I'm a country boy.
No.
But
Absolutely
so it was like, okay, one, do I want to go back and go?
The truth is, you can fit in anywhere.
There you go. I didn't want to go backwards and be like, hey, let me go like running back to New York, because I had kind of moved my way away from it, and that helped my mindset where it was like, okay, like there's more to life than just living in Long Island, because like Long Island, love it to death, amazing, but you can kind of feel like you're in a fishbowl. You know what I mean?
100%.
So I have this pivotal moment. It's like, okay, do you go back? But then I was like, I really want to go to Florida. I don't know what it was. I never lived here, but I was like, I've always just been drawn to nice weather, the heat. I'm a big Dolphins fan, which unfortunately. And it was, let's make the move. And in restaurants, I luckily was able to get in at the time. I was a food and nutrition director at a hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, there was this like shift in the hospitals down here where they wanted to have a culinary guy that would come in, would run kind of that department the way a restaurant would be run.
I love it.
So it was a way to get me down here. And I knew at the time it was a stepping stone to something greater. So I get to that. I'm doing that about a year and a half, whatever it was. And then, found my wife now, Margot, who's amazing.
Little shout out, Margot. I hope you're watching.
Yeah. So I get down here, and I had spoken to a guy when I was in Tennessee about insurance. He sold me an IUL, the whole deal. And he's like, you should do this. You'd be great at sales. And I knew like zero. I didn't have like,
right.
I don't know what it was. Like I didn't get it. I didn't get commission sales. I didn't get not getting paid, no benefits, nothing. So now I'm thinking about it. And I had a friend of mine who was doing insurance at the company I work now. And he kept like dripping on me to do it. He's like, but when you do it, you got to do it with us because we have leads and we have a system. So then I went and got my license. This is now September of whatever it was, 6-7 years ago. Yeah, 2018. And then I kind of slowly transitioned into it, and it was the greatest move I ever made.
Now, you have to be sponsored, right? Take the test. Somebody has to.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting. So my main company, which is Family First Life.
Family First Life.
Yeah, so that's
I had never heard of them.
Okay, so they're like what you consider, they're the IMO, right? So they're where you're getting contracted through them They pay for you to do your course. So like people that I recruit for my team, we sponsor for you to do the course, and then you have to go and pay for the license, and then we contract you directly with the insurance carriers.
Okay, so you don't work directly for them, but you work under their banner, so to speak.
Correct.
Is that fair to say?
So you're independent, which is
right,
good.
Right. 1099 or?
Yep, completely 1099.
Okay, very interesting. For those of you that don't fully understand, it means you're not a salaried employee. They don't have to pay certain taxes and withholdings and all that. You get paid as an outside contractor, and then you and your accountant figure out, or a payment service like ADP, et cetera. You'll figure out how to. So this is very interesting. So you were hooked up with a group, right? You're a rookie.
Yep.
Right.
Do nothing.
Right. You probably didn't even know what insurance was really, and a lot of the different things. There's all the products they have. I didn't know the difference between a stock and a bond when I started.
It's funny.
I had no clue, and but that doesn't matter.
Right.
Right. If you have the appetite, you'll learn.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows any. One thing you learn in business, nobody knows anything.
Right.
I'm looking at the guys in Washington, D.C. These people don't know anything. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're doing the best they can. You got some smart guys there that run big businesses, but, I'm listening to the guys on TV, all the pundits and experts on TV. I'm like, they don't know shit. And I'm just, so I'm posting my own stuff. But I think that's something, it's the biggest fallacy in the business world. You look at other people and you think they know what they're doing. And it's amazing how things just are put together and they just go and basically figure out how to do things right on the way. Like you learned. The best way to learn is I'll give you a chair, I'll give you a phone, you have a script, right, initially, because what do you know? You're not doing it on camera. And you just go, right?
100%. And I think nowadays, too, when you're starting a business in what I like to call like the YouTube generation, like
I love it.
You can literally learn anything. I remember, getting ready to take the test and everything, and I would just go home and I said to myself, because I'd go home and I'd, work my day, my 9 to 5, right? And I'd go home and I'd watch sports and just go to bed and whatever. But I'm like, if you want to make the money you want to make, you have to sacrifice that time. And instead of watching sports for 2-3 nights a week, sit down and go turn on a YouTube video of a top person in insurance and learn what they're doing.
Correct.
And I went and I watched Sean Mike, who you've probably seen. He's the head of our company. He lives over in Boca. I just started watching his stuff.
What's his name now?
Sean Mike.
Sean Mike.
Yep.
I feel like I know him, but I don't.
You've probably heard of him. He runs FFL, and then I started watching some other people, Patrick Bet-David, who runs PHP. And I'm just like, okay, let me go find the top people that do this at the highest level. Let me watch what they do. Let me mimic the way they're talking, the way they're doing things. And then I know I'm going to work hard, so we know that's going to be over here. Let me work hard and then learn and work smart. And let's marry all three of those things.
Right. Working smart becomes the most important thing.
100%.
That's where the leads come in, correct?
Yes.
So you have a system of some sort, correct?
Yes, and it's interesting because leads have evolved since I've started, and over time we have direct mail leads for like final expense, whole life insurance, for mortgage protection insurance, so people are just looking to insure themselves if something happened to them on their mortgage. We have, and now that's evolved to us running ads for like IULs or annuities. On my way over here, I have a gentleman, he's in Michigan, and that's the other cool thing. You get licensed in as many states as you want.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yes.
Got a dude in Michigan, he's got a crappy retirement. He needs my expertise. He pops on my calendar after he sees my video and my ad. I go through options with him. What does he qualify for? What does he want to put in a month? Cool, we do it. E-app it. He gets 2 texts and done. $300 a month policy. It's crazy.
It's amazing. And you get the trailers too. I mean, that.
Correct.
My insurance guy was so grateful to me because I turned them on to all these Wall Street people. He did my whole firm. And he was explaining, the residual benefits, these trailers that come on, that he's getting paid from shit that he did, 15 years ago or 10 years ago still. And, it's a little here, a little there, but it adds up.
It adds up. It's multiplication.
Bill Vallone, a little shout out to you, New England Life up in Long Island.
Okay. There you go.
Up in Long Island, William Vallone. I don't know if he owns a little small agency called the William Vallone Agency.
Nice.
He did a lot of insurance stuff for me over the years and everything else. I mean, at one time I had a $10 million policy. And,
Nice.
It's now 5, but I might be worth more dead than alive.
I don't know
But
about
insurance
that.
is very important. Let's talk about insurance for people.
100%.
People don't understand. It's just so important. You start saving early in life. And I felt like whole life was something really great for me, universal whole life. Putting money in mutual funds. And God willing, the markets will respond. It has the last 10 years.
Yep.
Now we see a little correction and all that stuff. But that's sort of healthy.
Yep.
And tell us about the benefits of insurance. You know, what's the pitch? What's the presentation?
The amazing thing about it is like you can sell anybody at any time in any scenario. Like I'll give you an example. The pandemic was probably,
Wow.
I mean, it was one of my best years. It was my breakthrough year. I wrote like 1.4 million of insurance myself. And that's not even like what my team did.
Right.
Because what happened? Everybody was freaked out about death and illness.
Correct.
Right? Everybody was home. And everybody just, they needed it. And then you talk about it like right now, what's going on with the market. Universal life, like you just mentioned, people either don't have retirement or they don't have enough retirement, or they say, hey, I have a retirement, now I'm going to have to pay taxes on it when I retire, and they don't want to, and they want to get into a vehicle like an IUL or an annuity where you're not going to have the taxes to pay, 20, 30 years from now.
So IUL is the big thing. Now explain to the audience what is IUL. Don't take for granted that people understand. They
For
don't.
sure, yeah.
A lot of people nod their head, but they don't know shit.
Yes.
They're conditioned not to ask and not to sound like they don't know.
Yeah.
Which I find crazy.
So IUL, Index Universal Life, is a permanent insurance that's going to cover you death and illness. So you're going to have a death benefit like a term would be. You're going to have a living benefit that would cover you where you could take money from the death benefit if you got an illness like anything chronic, critical, terminal. So that's a very important insurance side of
Very
things.
important.
Then you have your cash growth side. So when you do it, the younger you do it, the monies you're putting in, you're paying for the cost of insurance, but you're also growing money in there for yourself that later in life you can use as now tax-free retirement as opposed to a 401, an IRA, a TSP, where you're going to pay taxes on that money. And then you can also borrow on the money along the life of the policy. So you can borrow money from it and start a business or buy a car or put your kids through
When
college.
you borrow money, there's no tax involved.
Correct.
That's what people do.
So that's so people are getting more educated now, and that's where I do tons of reels and videos and education, because then people will reach out to me all over the country. Hey, can you help me with that?
I love it.
So they're just learning more, and they're also learning that like 401ks were not really set up to be what they're advertised to be.
That's true.
They're just not.
But it was at the time, it's what they had.
Right.
We've
Correct.
evolved now. We've gotten smarter. A lot of smart guys they design sort of investment vehicles. I always find that fascinating. Like the guys I grew up with in the stock market created ETFs.
Yeah.
Guys I was hanging out with, and it's now a $100 billion plus industry. Now let me ask you. You see Johnny over there and me. We're both 68 years old. Are we too old to get insurance?
No. Now, the number one thing is always going to be health, right? Depending on which type you'd get, if it, whole, universal, or term.
Right.
From a cash growth perspective, ideally, if you hit the health requirement, it would be IUL. It's just a matter of how you structure it. So, like when you're structuring an IUL, you want to have what they call minimum death benefit and maximum cash value.
Right.
Meaning you're not paying for like $1 million policy and you're putting a lot of money into the insurance, you're putting more into the investment side. So now if you're older and you're 68 and as long as you meet the health requirement, you're going to be paying more into it to
Right.
get more back because obviously your quote unquote cost of insurance is higher when you're older.
Right.
But no, I write them for people up to 75.
Wow. Because I guess, we have a shorter window to death, to the death benefit.
True.
So they gotta figure it out. You got a bunch of guys in the back room.
Yeah,
with
the
pencils.
actuary.
Yeah, those actuaries.
Crazy
sit there and just
underwriters that
type
want to decline everybody.
with slide rules and.
Yeah.
Do you deal with that? Do you deal with underwriters and all that? Sometimes you have to shop a policy.
Yeah, and that's the good thing with what I do being a broker. So I'm not like tied to just one insurance company. I probably have contracts with 30.
Ah,
So that's key because everybody's thing is different from an underwriting and a health perspective, right? And then, depending what you're looking for, who's going to give you a better cash growth or what have you. So that helps because if you just work with one company and then they decline you, you're toast,
interesting. So it's just like a mortgage in a sense, right? You shop around.
Pretty much.
And there are different players in the game.
Yeah.
Is the New England still around?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something very interesting. So every time I go to the mailbox, I'm getting hit up for insurance.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a member of AAA,
Yeah.
the automobile, and they keep offering me, they want to insure me. I don't know what it's all about. It's just, they come at me. They spend so much money on direct mail.
Yes.
There's so much money. My mail is 90% credit card invitations and insurance, life insurance.
It's interesting, too, you mentioned that. So there's a lot of companies like that. Not that I want to bash anybody, but
Right.
like your AAAs, your Globe Life, a lot of those companies that do that direct mail, what people don't understand is that they're pretty much what they call graded or accidental policies, right?
Right.
So these insurance companies, like, they'll make a boatload of money if you go buy an accidental because they know that like 99.9% of the time you're not going to die of an accident. So you're going to pay whatever lower premium it is. You're going to feel good because it's cheap, and then they're going to make the money on it at the end of the day. Same thing with like some of these AAAs. They give you what's also called a graded, which is a small whole life, but they give you a 2-year wait because they don't run any of your health. So when I meet any of the people that have these type of policies, it's great because they don't understand, and then you educate them. And let's say I meet somebody whose health is good enough to get a day one coverage.
Right.
I'm going to get them that over that graded, and it's usually cheaper. So a lot of that direct mail stuff, like the people I meet that get that, they're
Right.
like gold because
Right.
you're educating them, you get them something better.
Right. That's like fast food.
Yeah.
You're showing them a little bit of a dining experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having product knowledge is critical.
Totally.
I mean, I was a licensed insurance broker, 40 years ago, but I remember very little about the whole thing.
Mm.
I remember yield to maturities and having to figure that out. We used to actually figure things out with pencils and pads. You guys grew up with
Oh, yeah. Now it's crazy. You just do. The guy I sold before, I did the application on my phone.
Right. It's
like,
crazy, right?
In 10 minutes. Easy.
Now, you make money on something like that, right?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So my company, the thing, comp with insurance is
Yes.
big, right? So my company, you have the ability to get up to 145% comp, which means you're getting 145% of what you sell on a policy. You get a 9-month advance, and then you get like the back end 3 months, and then like depending on the policy, you're going to get that trail that you mentioned. So what's also awesome is the ability to have a team where you're basically making overrides from your team. You're helping them sell. You're helping them kind of change their life, which is awesome. So in insurance, everybody's impacted from a life perspective, your clients and the agents that work with you. And you're getting that commission where you're getting up to that percentage, which is very, very high in the industry. A lot of times these companies, depending where you work, they want to pay you a 30%, a 50%, a 40%. My company, you could literally get up to 145, which is crazy.
What does that mean, 145? Explain that.
So that means, if I sell you a policy at $100 a month,
Right.
if I'm at 145% comp, the insurance carrier is going to pay me 145 on 100.
Not every month.
No, so they give you the 9-month advance of the premium. So if I take 100 times the 9 at a 145, I get that advance to me tomorrow.
So it's like $1,500, $1,400, something like that, right?
And then, so now the client's paid those 9 months. They hit month 10. I get paid each month as earned 10, 11, 12. And then let's say the back end trail is 3%. And I get that on a whole life for 10 years. Now I get 3% of that policy every month that it pays
Right.
for 10 years.
You start selling, 50, 100, 200 policies, all
Yeah.
of a sudden money starts coming in every month.
Correct. And I personally write on average about probably $130,000 a month personally, and my team does $700,000 a month. So if I get, 10,
You're getting a nice override on your team.
yeah, if I get 10 to 40% on all of that, it's amazing.
You're paying for dinner.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm going to say.
100%,
It's on you.
no doubt.
I love it. I think it's so great because if you're a man with a family, you got to have insurance.
Yes.
I mean, I'm an example. When I was 16, my brother 13, my mother was 38, my dad was 48. He dropped dead at dinner. Literally dropped dead on Rosh Hashanah dinner.
Wow.
48 years old.
Heart attack?
Heart attack. Never sick a day in his life. This is 1973. They didn't understand too many things. They were just starting to talk about cholesterol. Apparently he had some cholesterol issues, and he had high blood pressure, which is a tell. They don't always know why you have high blood pressure, but the fact that you have high blood pressure says there's something wrong with the plumbing. There's just something going on that's not right. They don't always know exactly what it is. And, then you go through a series of I'm telling you my own experience. They don't know. But my dad just dropped dead. He had a very small insurance policy with 2 young kids. The house is mortgaged. The cars are leased. Everything was, we live in the American dream.
Yeah.
Mortgaged, borrowed, leased. And all my plans went out the window as a young man because I was sat down and said, your dad was the breadwinner in the family, and he's gone now. We're in big trouble. So if you have a big insurance policy, that's good. Before I went to prison, my wife said, if you drop dead, you're a hero.
That's true. Well, it's interesting what you just said in that story. So what makes a top producer, there's a lot of different things, but I would say this one thing really can make or break you as a top producer in insurance. If you don't get to the pain of what you just said,
right,
and you don't get emotional and you don't talk about death, it's not to say like we like talking about death or it's fun, but if you don't put that into people and make them understand like what that looks like,
right,
you're not going to close. You're just not.
No, you have to create a vision, and it becomes their vision. I get it. Trust me. So when I was making, very substantial money, and I was a multi-millionaire, and I took a $10 million whole life policy with $10 million death benefit. I don't remember how much I was putting in, but I also had whole life policies for my wife, both my daughters, et cetera, and we used that as a way to save.
Right.
That sort of a thing. And that helped a great deal when I did go to prison. I did want to go away and all these different things. And one of the interesting things is the government wouldn't touch any of the life policies.
Yep.
That's another thing, everybody.
Yep.
The government won't go after that. I mean, unless you're like a serial killer, I don't know. But even they came at me for securities fraud, manipulating the stock exchange, but they wouldn't go after that money, that whole life money. So, you're obviously successful. You're very well put together.
Thank you.
What makes you successful in the insurance business? I mean,
I would if I had.
You don't look like an insurance broker, though. I'm looking at you.
Well, it's interesting because I think number one,
you look like you're on a Netflix dating show.
There you go.
Like Temptation Island.
Insurance has changed, and it's very different than what you just said. Like, because that's what the connotation kind of is. Like, hey, I'm gonna have some weird guy coming over and with a suit. He's gonna try and sell me everything. But now it's just it's a young person's game now. I'm probably even on the older end. 20-year-olds,
really?
25. Yeah, it's huge because you can work from home, which is the pandemic really shifted because now these insurance carriers made.
But it wasn't always like that, right?
Yeah, I mean it was. I mean,
I remember guys had to put suits and ties on and go into an office.
Prior to the pandemic, pretty much everybody was in home, which I still prefer. I like to meet you. I want to see you. I want to shake your hand, whatever. But then it became this, hey, we're on lockdown with the pandemic, and these insurance carriers made it where I can either text or email you a code, and then we'll do the application that way and what have you. So then that became, all right, well, we're just going to work from home. Now, I personally know that closing people in person versus over the phone or over Zoom is easier. It just is. You're going to have a higher close ratio. However, you have a lot of people that are selling. Like I probably sell a mixture. I do a little of each, about 50-50. But it really changed the way things worked. But to your first question, I think if I had to summarize it, it would be discipline would be probably the number one reason that I'm successful. I'm always afraid of somebody taking it away. We've never made it. I try to be confident but humble. But I think there's a level of discipline that you have to have, even if you look outside of insurance, when you're an entrepreneur and you run a business, if you're not like on it, like I'm harder on me now than any boss ever was.
Oh, yeah. I get it. I understand. And
that discipline is what helps set you free and make sure that your business is successful.
Discipline and sacrifice, that's to me they go on the two sides of a coin. But I get it. I mean, but here's the thing I want to point out to everybody. You're just a guy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a good-looking boy. I mean, you're built, you're tall, you've got a presence, but you have clear eyes, all that good stuff. But you're just a guy. You don't have any superpowers, right?
Correct. I don't think so.
Right. And you make $1 million a year, and you're living a great life in South Florida. I mean, I used to say to my buddies once in a while, because we were up in New York making all this money, and I said, boy, if I could just go to Florida and make $1 million a year.
Right.
I mean, there's no stress. You don't need clothes. You know what I mean? You don't need clothes. You just join a beach club and you live on the beach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My ex-wife says, just get yourself a nice condo at the ocean and just stay home and podcast all day.
There you go.
You make, $100,000 a month, and that's
it.
the end of it. As long as you can talk, we're going to be okay, she says.
Right.
It's very funny. But you don't have superpowers. So explain to the young men out there that are a little lost right now, 20, 23, 25, in their teens, tell them that it's possible. Let them know.
Yeah.
Are you hiring?
Yeah. So I have a team of agents literally in every state. I recruit people all day long. And is insurance and entrepreneurship easy? No. But we're not digging ditches. You know what I mean? Like we're not roofing houses in the Florida sun. Right. I think what young people need to hear, and young men particularly, is organization, discipline and organization, I think, are the things that lack for people, because we all have the same amount of hours in the day, but like, how are you using it, right? Are you the one that's, drinking, doing drugs and sleeping in, and then like you get around to your work when you want to get around to your work? Or are you serious about your work? Do you get up early and go to the gym and take care of you, number one? That's always been a big thing for me. Like,
me too. I
got to the point, I know you should take a day off from working out, but it's so regimented and routine. Like, even if one of the days I'm not going crazy hard, I get up at, 5 every day.
You get up 5 every day?
5 every day.
You hear that, everybody? 5.
Sometimes it's 4. It depends on what's going on.
Right.
Like my wife will go to the gym. I'm home with the boys. She goes. I go. I make my coffee and I go in my office and I'm doing some work. She comes back. I'm there by 6, and then I'm on the phone, and then I go to the sauna because that's good for you too. So workout, sauna, and then I'm on the phone 8 o'clock. And I am fanatical about it. Now, do I need to be on the phone at 8 o'clock? No, I don't. But here I do.
I understand.
Because in my head, I'm like, that's what got me here.
Of course.
Now, maybe nowadays it's I'll be on the phone at 8 o'clock, not only talking with one of my clients, but talking to one of my agents. Because as you're building in the insurance industry, you don't want to sell forever. You're trying to create a team that's going to create enough passive income to basically replace what you were making and then some.
Correct.
But I think that's a big thing for people nowadays. Like, there's just not enough organization with people, and they waste time. Like, I get a boatload of stuff done because I use this. Everything is scheduled.
I teach all that. I love it.
Like, it's scheduled to the minute. Like, when I go to dinner, it's scheduled. Like, I don't want
Really?
I put everything in there. And I'll tell you why. Like, I don't
use
forget
the calendar app is what
I can use a calendar for everything. My clients that book with me through my ads, they go right to my calendar. It's on there. Boom. It reminds me. I call them. We move on. When it's time to be with my family and my kids, I'm there. When it's time to go watch the Dolphins lose, I'm there. Like,
I get it.
I got everything mapped out, and I think that organization is what's lacking with people.
It's drive, it's organization, but taking advantage of the tools. Like, we didn't have any of these things as I was growing up in business. Right. I'm amazed. I still trying to figure out how to use everything. We have this calendar, a Google Calendar, that we all discuss because we're old guys and it's like fun. But I love it now. I'm hooked because now if it's not in the calendar, I don't consider it real.
Right.
And sometimes I get things and I forget to tell my team and they don't put it in and all these different things. But it's you have these tools at your fingertips. I mean, don't you want to be rich? Don't you want to have money? I mean, I hate looking at a friggin' menu.
Yes.
And saying, I'm not going to get this today. It's $52. I'm going to go with the $25 option. I've never been on a budget my whole life.
Yeah.
I've never really had to look at a price my whole life. My attitude was, I'm just going to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to make more money. I think it's a little unhealthy, my attitude. But that's just how I'm built. And I'm why we didn't have all these friggin' tools. And it's just a blessing, and it's so great to hear that, you're using these tools, but you're doing the old school stuff. Up at 5, coffee, gym. You go every day, huh?
Every day.
Wow.
You know what it is too? It's like
You do a lot of cardio?
I try to, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like talent will only get you so far. Like
Correct.
I'd say okay, like I'm a fairly intelligent guy. I'm not the smartest. I do think there's an element to all of this where I'm always trying to learn. Like there's a ton of stuff about finance I don't know, but I can tell you this: in the 6-7 years I've been doing this, I know completely a million times more than I did before.
Yeah.
Because I'm investing time into learning not only the vehicle of selling, which is the vehicle to make money.
I agree.
I'm also learning things like taxes and taking advantage of tax breaks with being an entrepreneur and stuff like that,
and
all
laws.
that stuff. And I'm putting time into that education, and that education's money.
Right. So if you're a young guy now in your 20s, go get a job in the insurance world. This is my understanding. I know people looking for work all the time, and they say, "Well, New York Met they're interviewing or these different big insurance companies." I'm shocked. But they were very aggressively hiring and training. And I said, why would you not take advantage of that?
The insurance industry is interesting, not to cut you off, because it's hard, but it's really hard when you make it hard. Like, meaning,
right.
There's so many people in the country that need insurance. There's so many insurance agents that have gotten licenses, but they failed. Either they didn't give it what it needed, or maybe they weren't trained correctly. But like you have to like understand like you're going to get told no a lot. And what happens is people get into it and they're crazy excited, and then they get told no and they're like, oh my God, this sucks. This is the worst thing ever.
I don't ever understood that. I've been getting no my whole life for everything. So I'm used to no. No just means let's go. We're still in it. You know what I mean?
No means I can move on to the next person who might want it.
Well, I appreciate people that give me a no quickly.
Right.
But also because they're not wasting my time. But, I like to understand where the no comes from, because typically, there's some sales guys, there are schools of thought I see online now, and they you have to get 3 no's in a sales call. And I'm like, I don't know who invented this concept, but I've been selling my whole life. I'm considered pretty good. I've had amazing results from production, new accounts, et cetera. And there's no formula for no. Each call takes its own turn, right? There's this element of psychology involved. And, the great thing about insurance, in my opinion, everybody needs it.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Everybody needs it.
Yep.
It's forced savings if you're single, if you're not worried about, your death benefit because you don't care about family, you don't have any family or anyone you love. But it's forced savings. I'd say $1,000 a month. That's all. Market goes up. Next thing you know, instead of having $12,000, I have $15,000, $20,000, I say, for the year.
Yeah.
Not bad. Comes in handy. Every once in a while I do a deal. I get a bonus. I cut a few checks, $2,000 here, $3,000, $5,000, dump it in. I just forget about it. And that came in very handy in my life, just so you know.
Yeah.
But everybody needs some form of insurance.
And
Everybody.
The biggest evolution that's happened probably in the last 10 to 15 years has been the living benefits. So,
explain that, because I'm not even familiar with that.
So basically on a lot of these universal and even some term policies, let's say your death benefit is $500,000 and you get a chronic, critical, or terminal illness. You can then accelerate your benefit as a living benefit while you're alive, so you can take that money and use it if, God forbid, you got diagnosed with something tomorrow.
The death benefit?
The death benefit.
Really?
And now
percentage of it, not all?
Yeah, percentage depending on what you have.
If you have cancer and you can't work.
Correct.
Wow.
So that's a huge piece for people with everything going on.
Now, that's not automatically written into every policy, right?
No. So pretty much most universals have it, and then there's certain terms, specified terms have it.
You have to craft it, though.
Yeah. But I have 5-6 carriers that do that specifically.
Well, that's great, because I have, I'm getting to that age at 68, some friends that just stage 4 cancer.
Right.
And now today they have a lot of treatments that they didn't have. Mm-hmm. And they can keep you going for a year, 2 years, 3 years like that. Yeah. But meanwhile, you can't work.
Yep.
You're nauseous. Your hair's falling out. Some of these are great sales guys, by the way. That I know from the stock market for 35 years. And they're getting very sick, and people are, I didn't know there was a living benefit like that.
Yeah, it's huge. It's one of the biggest thing that I sell, even when I'm talking to somebody about an IUL and they're there because they want to save money and whatever. I'm like, the biggest investment we have here is you, right? Because if you work, you bring in money. Let's, number one, ensure your ability to do that, and then let's, grow your money.
So let's say I had $1 million death benefit.
Yeah.
Okay? Which is a realistic thing. and I'm paying out $1,000 a month, $1,200 a month into the policy. The idea is a lot of it's going into the market, what you call an index fund, right?
Yep.
And hopefully it's bringing back enough of a monthly return that pays my premium. Who knows? But can I now say, hey, I have this policy. Stevie, can you get me that living benefit? Can we change it, adjust it? We have to close one and reopen another? How does that work?
Typically, you'd have to open a new one.
Like roll it over? Do they have rollovers like that?
Yeah, you have rollovers. So if you have cash value, you roll it into a
Right.
new one. That I do a lot. I do a lot of those on annuities too, because annuities have certain riders on them. So let's say you rolled over $100,000 into an annuity. Some of them will have a chronic care or terminal illness care rider that you can tap into the monies and stuff like that.
I think the whole world needs this. It's such a great, it's got to give you some comfort knowing that everybody needs what you're selling.
Yeah.
I used to sell stock, basically to rich guys and institutions and all that. Nobody really needs it. You know, I remember saying I'm so good at selling stuff that people don't really need or don't even want. But I'm good at it. I mean, if I should have sold insurance, I would have never had any worries in my life.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to sell something that wasn't impactful, you know?
Right, right. I get that.
Growing money obviously is one thing, but then like I could tell you stories, you know, up the wazoo of people that passed away and, you know, so-and-so, the dad dies and then they're left similar to the situation you're telling me about, and then I can give them a check for $100,000 that they paid, you know, a couple $100 a month for in an insurance, and it changes their life.
Changes lives, really. It's just such a great thing. Wow. Now, we talked about your early life, but I don't know that there were any people in your early life that had that kind of a big impact. Did they? Or not really?
Yeah, I mean, my dad for sure.
A heavy machine operator, though.
Yeah, heavy machine operator. You know, he taught me, like, the hard work side of stuff. Yeah. My mom, she kind of had the guts to start businesses, so she actually ran... she had a Tupperware business way back when Tupperware was the big thing. I love that, when they were doing Tupperware.
It was a big thing.
So
huge, bro.
Huge, yeah.
Every housewife in Long Island was trying to have these Tupperware parties. And
correct. She was probably running them all.
So funny.
So what's interesting is when you took the both of their personalities, where one is like the worker and the other is the entrepreneur type of a thought process. And I always like take from that where I married the two. You know, like you can have a little bit of both, and then when you have both, you're going to really explode. Because sometimes the entrepreneur guy, the talented guy, he doesn't want to work that hard. You know what I mean? And vice versa.
Yes. You know, sometimes great talent works against you sometimes.
Yes.
And I've experienced that myself. I was very talented and I had a drug problem, but I still made more money than guys. I go in 2 days a week and I still made more money than guys that worked all week. And that was my denial. And if you tried to help me, I would blast you and say, what's wrong with you? You should look at yourself. But of course, as soon as I got well and started showing up every day, obviously my life, you know, it grew exponentially, you know, everything else. You know, you're not a risk taker though, are you? You're risk adverse. That's my sense.
I wouldn't know if I'd say that. I think I'm a little cautious, but I would say this. In doing what I do now, being where I'm at business-wise versus where I was, I'm a million times more in risk
at this
than
point,
I was.
Yeah. Well, but you're measuring risk.
I measure risk.
You now understand risk more, so you take more risk because you realize maybe it's not so risky.
Yeah.
Something that might have frightened you before.
For sure. And I also think now with risk and fear, it was interesting in church yesterday, it was a big thing about, you know, fear and like not having fear and allowing fear to control you. And I thought a lot about just business and life because I look back and I'm like, why would you ever be afraid of anything? Because you work hard, you're in good systems, you live in a country where you can make money, even if it wasn't insurance, there's other things I'm looking to kind of get into, real estate, what have you. You know how to do it. You know what I mean? Like, and you believe in yourself. Like, there's no reason to be fearful of anything. Any situation you're going to be able to outwork, bottom line.
I've learned that now. God has been very he's been very diligent in removing fear from my life. Because I would tell you that fear governed a lot of the decisions I made from the time I was young. And a lot of it had to do with my father's sudden death. You know, this thing that everything could be ripped away from you in 1 second.
Yeah.
And a lot of thoughts come out of that prospect that are not always so healthy or great. But, you know, this fear is just, there's nothing you can't outwork.
It's another
Nothing you
four-letter
can't get
word.
through.
That's all it is.
It's really something very interesting. Fear dictates almost everybody that walks planet Earth.
Yep.
I say that with a level of sincerity. If you know, it's funny you brought that up. That came up in church yesterday, huh?
Yeah. It was like the big lesson of the day.
Interesting. You go to church. You're a church-going guy, God-fearing. You boys go?
Yeah.
How old are the boys?
One's going to be almost 5 now, and the other's going to be 4. No, I'm sorry, he's going to be 3 in like another month.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So got our hands full.
You got your wife. Now, let me ask you, is there another? You're not done yet, are you?
I'm done. I don't think she's done, but I'm done.
Those Italian women, they want to have kids.
I know,
They're
yeah,
ready.
tell me about it.
She wants a daughter. You know, I have 2 daughters.
Okay.
Men like me make daughters.
Yeah.
Men like you make sons. I'm just telling you.
That's funny.
And it's my measure. That's another conversation for another time. But, you know, I married an Italian girl. I married Stephanie Sarno from the Bronx. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And Dad was a Teamster truck driver.
Mm.
And so I'm very familiar, you know. She had a big Italian family.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I loved the gravy. You know, parents both passed while I was away, which is terrible. And but we have 2 beautiful daughters. But I would have had more kids if I didn't have that issue with the United States government. Now, we have some questions here. We did a little research.
Sure.
And some of it we've really just covered in our natural conversation. But how is your, let's call it, you know, lots going on politically in this country.
Yep.
You know what's going on with the stock market right now, Trump, Biden, liberals, Democrat. You know, there's just, I don't want to get into this whole political, I'm politically neutral.
Sure.
I happen to be a Trump fan because I did some deals with Donald and the Trump organization, and I lived in Trump Tower for several years. So,
nice.
you know, I got to know the family a little bit, and they're just good people. They're not, there's no Hunter Biden in the crowd.
Yeah, for
No
sure.
one's smoking crack with hookers and banging his brother's wife and all these different things. and then trying to say that, you know, he's a good guy. But how have your beliefs evolved or changed? You're a successful man now by any standard. You're, I want to say you're a millionaire. You're certainly $1 million producer. You have a big business. You have young children. You own a home. You're married. Has your view, your personal beliefs or worldview changed at all in the last, let's say, 10 years, 5 years?
I think the core of my beliefs have always been the same, but I think as you evolve from a business mindset, you start looking at like politics and things differently, right? Because you start looking at it like, okay, what's going to be best for me as a business person, whereas maybe previously it was what's best for me as like an employee, you know?
Right.
I've always pretty much been a Republican. So I think that would be what I'd say. It's evolved in that essence because you're looking at things differently.
How they affect you as a business guy, right?
Yeah, right. How's it going to affect my business? How's
your
it going to
clients, your customers, right?
Correct. Looking out for that aspect, I'd say.
I love it. It's looking back. Were there any decisions you made that might have felt small at the time, but ended up, you know, being life-changing?
Yeah, that decision of moving to Florida.
Yeah, I get that.
It wasn't. It was like, oh, like you're gonna go move, like no big deal. But it completely changed the trajectory of my life. It changed the trajectory of my mindset. I also think getting a divorce at the time.
That was my
huge.
next question.
Yeah, that was huge.
Like a divorce for a guy. I'm looking at you, getting to know you, right? We never met before.
Yeah.
I've only heard great things. I follow your Instagram.
Thank you.
I listen to you on social media. We did some research, and you know, for a guy like you to get married, to me, that was like a bit of a risky decision. You were so young, right?
Yeah.
You were in the hospitality game at that time.
Yep.
And you were married, what, 6 or 7 years, you said?
No, let's see.
Right,
all this
I
stuff's
know.
like a blur. No, it was actually 2014. It's like almost 5.
Almost 5 years.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about that at all?
Sure, why not?
Margot's listening. I got to be very careful here.
She knows.
She knows everything.
She knows
Trust
everything.
me.
Yeah, she knows
She knows what you're going to do before you do it.
Correct. So, no, it was just, look, the woman I was married to, she was a great person. It just was one of those things. I think our personalities weren't aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we just necessarily didn't want the same things. Like, I would never look at it and be like, hey, oh my God, she was terrible or what have you. It just wasn't, it wasn't the right mix at the time. But like everything in life, the Lord puts you in situations for a reason.
Correct. Sometimes for a season.
Correct. And it was one of those things, too, when I got married, I had moved from New York to Pennsylvania, which is where she lived. So it was one of those things. And I think when God was playing the game with me, he was like, okay, you need to get off of Long Island. Not to say that Long Island's bad or anything, but you need to expand your horizon.
Growth.
There had to be some growth there and some hard growth. And that was that season to go from there. And then, she had gotten a position in Tennessee. We went there for whatever it was, a year and a half. So it was there for a reason. And I learned a lot from her, from the situation. And I think it just made me stronger, and kind of going back to fear, it made me not have fear of doing stuff. Whereas if I would have stayed in Long Island and kind of went down that path.
I get it.
I wouldn't be me right now. I just wouldn't.
I understand. Sometimes you have to make a geographical move because, you're a big, tall, handsome guy. You had your friends, you had your family. Life was sort of designed already.
Right, and the Italian thing, leaving, like that was hard too.
Comfort zone,
you're leaving family. Like my dad at the time, he wasn't in the greatest of health. I'm leaving that situation as well, which was hard. Like I'm close to my brother. But I knew, I just had this pulling on me where it was like, you got to do this.
I understand.
There's more. To me, I've always felt like there's more for you. There's more for you, and you got to follow it.
Listen, my drug of choice is more. So you know.
There you go.
So be careful.
It's true.
Be very careful with all that. You said you're close with your brother. What does he do?
He actually does sales. He does carpet, works with a big carpet company up there, so he does sales. He's like a regional guy. So
I'm surprised you didn't bring him into the insurance game.
I'm trying to get him there because he does sales. I'm trying.
A good sales guy with what you have established. He's not like walking in, to sit in a MetLife boardroom or something.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you can amp him up pretty quickly.
We'll get him there.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I want you, one of the things that really intrigues me, it might be more interesting for me than for my audience or your audience, etc., but this whole lead thing.
Yeah.
Because, once you get to a certain level, you develop a skill set, then it's all leads.
Yep.
I can close anybody. If I have good leads, if I'm talking to an idiot, good luck. You're wasting your time. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
You have to have qualified people. So talk about your system, the leads, if you can.
Yeah. No, the leads are huge, and the evolution of the leads. And what's cool for me now is when you've started selling at a high level, and you have the social media presence and people see you, and then you're the one that's actually doing your own ads and you're talking to the people. They see you talking about it, and then what they do is they're seeing what you're doing. They can then connect and see your Instagram and see you're legit, and they see it over and over and over where you're talking about stuff. Then they connect with you, and what ends up happening is they start following you, and then their friends start following you, and it just becomes this whole trickle down effect and multiplication. So I think that's been big for me, whereas I'm the one doing a lot of that content. So they see me. It's not just oh, you're seeing this guy over here, and then we just pass you on over to this guy. I'm the guy you're seeing. I'm the one you're connecting with. So there's a credibility that comes with that.
I'm selling mastermind programs.
Yeah.
So I'm mentoring guys like you.
Mm-hmm.
Come to me. They see me online. Something about my personality, the content, intrigues them or captivates them. So I would love to get this guy's ear.
Mm-hmm.
And so they reach out and they buy a program and they get me.
Mm.
And, they love it because they say, listen, Patrick Bet-David, I did it with Grant Cardone. I spoke to him for 15 minutes. Then I got some other guy.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you spent $10,000 or whatever it is. And, so you do online leads. Would you say that's where the bulk of them come?
Yeah, online. There is some direct mail we still do. That's a lot of it's about mortgage protection. Someone gets a new mortgage or a refinance, and then there's companies that we have that'll direct mail to them saying, hey, get this insurance that covers you if you get sick,
Right.
pass
God
away,
forbid.
whatever. So you have that component. And then from the perspective of leads for agents to work with me, it's the same thing. It's kind of one and the same with your social media. People will see, your success, right? You're posting your success and you're posting success of your team. And then they're like, man, I want to work with him. He's successful, and look what he did for that guy.
Correct.
And then people reach out to you. And, as well as I knew, this whole social media game, it's, it is new to everybody, but now it's like the thing.
It's so brilliant, bro. I just
Yeah.
got to say, for the first time in human history, look how we connected social media.
Right. Correct.
I'm meeting people that are just unbelievable and all that kind of a thing. I'm producing a movie next year called Blind Greed, based on a book the guy, a friend of mine, wrote. Lived this crazy life. I know that I've read the screenplay, the script, the book, the whole thing, so I represent that. And using social media, we had done a lot of research, social media, Google, and reached out to her on Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, it took 45 days of me DMing him. Finally, he's like, who is this lunatic? It took me 45 days in a row DMing me. I forgot who he was. When I got a text from him, I was like, who's this guy? Because I put my phone number on the DM. I said, I have something a businessman I really want to talk to you about. But you can get to anyone. This guy made 5 movies since 2020. Walked the red carpet this past Thursday night at the old Man Chinese Theater in L.A.
Wow.
He starred in and produced 2 movies last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he's starring in this movie, Blind Greed. He's co-producing it with me, and he's directing it.
It's awesome.
And it's all through social media. It's amazing. I mean, what? And I did a podcast with Bradley last July.
Mm-hmm.
He posted it, I think, in August or September. And 2 guys reached out and said, I want to buy Ross Mandell's mastermind program. We didn't have a mastermind program. I didn't even
We're going to make one for you, though.
I didn't know what it was. We did a little quick research, and I said, wow, yeah, let's do it. 2 guys had heard me that just said, I want to, learn from this guy. And these are like 2 of my brothers now. I mean, we're building a real sort of community. And it's really fantastic. You'll be doing that soon as well. In an odd way, you're a mastermind already to all your agents and all that kind of stuff, right? When you hire guys.
Yeah, it's something
business.
I'm actually working on is doing like a small course to kind of go through. I mean, we have it now for my team, people that I work with, just kind of going over what's going to work, what's not going to work. But people need that. They need that guidance. The other thing that's been cool about doing insurance is it's kind of opened up my eyes to just doing other things with social media. I started doing a faceless YouTube channel. I started doing some.
What does that mean, a faceless YouTube?
So basically what you're doing is you're taking a topic. So let's say it was, I'm a big wrestling fan, right? Believe that or not.
Worldwide wrestling?
Yeah, with WWE. So I did a faceless WWE YouTube channel where what you're doing is you're posting videos that are let's say it's a mini biography of a guy.
Okay.
And you're just basically cutting up videos, and then you do a voiceover, and there's actually an AI technology that you use that you record your voice, the whole thing. And then you script out these videos. You do these 10-minute videos. You try and do one every week or so, and then you're getting your YouTube subscribers up, and you can start making pretty crazy money doing it. And there's you go for what are the big topics? If it's gossip, Trump, whatever,
right?
And you just have these channels, and you have these guys that they cut up these videos. I have a couple social media guys that do it. So I'm hey, let's do this. This is something I'm into. I started doing I do podcasting for the insurance, but then I'm a big dolphin fan, so I started doing a dolphin podcast.
That's cool.
Just more for fun and probably for my entertainment than anything. But I'm you start doing this stuff, and then it gets big, and you get subscribers. You can make some pretty good money on it.
YouTube pays very, very good money. I have friends making a lot of money.
Yeah, it's crazy.
A lot of money.
People are on it.
I just got to the monetization phase at Instagram, at TikTok.
Yeah. Yep.
Where now they say I'm making money, and I got to set it up still. I even got a concierge now with Instagram. Well, you must have one, right?
Yeah, I got that with Instagram. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they let you know, and they start advising you. But that's very interesting. So a lot of your leads, most of them, come from online stuff.
Yeah.
Do you run any Facebook ads, anything like that? Or?
Yeah, so the way it runs with my videos, it goes through Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
For both. And then you just basically, you have your ad spend, you're doing your videos, and then it's just really cool. Like I was saying to you before, you'll start seeing people that just follow you just because they saw your ad. They might have not even done it yet, or
Right.
they you know, like they didn't book on your calendar, they didn't want to do anything yet, but they had interest and now they see it, and that's where the whole dripping and just posting consistently comes from.
I love that. And so you talk about insurance. You talk about the benefits of insurance. I know I've seen some of your things. You talk about discipline. You do talk about family. I mean, I love, you're a very impressive young man. Let me just say it like that.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying? If that's your sort of selfish hobby, the McMahons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a big thing on Long Island. I don't know why it was so
Huge.
big. It's so
Yeah.
big on Long Island.
Huge.
Well,
Well, you know what it is? I think my dream would have been, and maybe I should have did this, would have been to be a wrestler.
I get it.
That would have been.
And you
my
have that
thing.
size. I just want you to know, in 1973, before my father passed, I saw Bruno Sammartino defend the title against Ivan Koloff.
Okay, yeah.
And Pedro, whatever was on the
Pedro
Captain
Morales.
America. Pedro Morales was
Yeah.
on it. Andre
Yeah.
the Giant on the same that card. Chief J Strongbow.
Yeah.
That's what I grew up with.
My dad was a huge Bruno fan, and
Yeah.
one of the highlights
Italian
of
American.
Yeah.
1973.
Yep. One of the highlights of memories with him was we met him. I don't remember what year it was. I must have been 16, 17 years old, and it was like the greatest day of his life.
Yeah.
Bruno Sammartino.
They're like stars. You know?
Yeah.
It's entertainment. That's
Yeah,
all it is.
100%.
These women are watching soap operas for 50
Right.
years.
Yeah.
50 years these shows are
Yeah.
on.
They're all doing the same thing. The same
And there's
loop.
still half a million
Yeah.
women are watching it every
Yeah,
day.
it's true.
They know every single thing that happens. I was in prison. You'd be shocked at how many guys are watching soap operas. It takes up 3 hours every day. They stay out of trouble. They sit and they cook or they eat. But they watch those soap operas, Bold and the Beautiful and all these things, General Hospital. They know everything, every
Yeah.
character. It's like serious. So what's wrong with wrestling? I think
That's
wrestling's
right.
very cool.
Yeah, no doubt.
My friend, he's one of the biggest managers, sports agent
Yeah.
of fighters, UFC, real fighting. And you know what he does in his spare time? He goes to every WrestleMania.
There you go. Oh, I got to get this guy.
He loves
connect.
it. Malky Kawa.
Okay.
He loves it. He just loves it. Now he's got a son. He takes his kid. He's like, he loves it. Meanwhile, she represents John Jones.
Oh, wow.
He's got the biggest fighter, Ilya Taporia.
Okay.
Another undefeated pound-for-pound GOAT.
Well, now they merged, too. So UFC and WB are under the TKO banner. They
Right.
merged under that company, which is cool.
It's crazy, right? The old William Morris Endeavor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are crazy, great things. Oh, yeah, I can tell you stories. What's the hardest lesson you ever had to learn in business?
Man.
Let's talk about something that went wrong.
Yeah. The hardest lesson, I would say debt. So here's how debt works, right? I recruit you, and I think you're the greatest guy ever, and I work so hard with you, and you get into the business and you start selling, and you sell 30 grand. And maybe it's a good 30 grand, or maybe the client's just all canceled, or maybe you scam these people, and now you run away and you got advanced money, right? Because that's the tricky
Right,
thing.
$5
of our
grand a month,
business.
whatever it is,
Correct.
right?
And now that you don't pay that, I got to pay that.
You eat it.
Now, it's like running Walmart, right? There's going to be theft. There's going to be a
It
percentage.
happens.
It is what it is.
There's nothing you can do. And in Florida, I hate to say it, it's very common.
Correct. So I've had, God, maybe 100 to 200,000, maybe even more.
Right, walk out the door.
Yeah, walk out the door. Now, you know the drill. You're making. what
It's a
you're making.
cost of doing
It's a cost of
business.
doing business, but it still sucks.
It sucks.
And honestly, what even sucks even more than the money, I'd say, is like
Guys let you down.
the person, right?
I get
like
it.
now, like you're a piece of shit. Like I'm
Right.
sorry. And I don't know if we can curse or not.
Right. You can curse a lot. You would say, fuck.
Oh, cool. So that would be the negative of the business. And I think that's what cripples a lot of people that are actually building
Right.
a business, right? Because they're like, well, I don't want to have any loss. Well, you're not going to have a business without any loss.
Correct.
Number one, anywhere in the universe.
Correct.
So yeah, I think I had like one girl wrote me like 30 grand and another one. It's all been like smaller increments, but maybe it's been upwards of whatever.
But when you really like someone and you feel like you're making a bet on them and they let you down, you
Yeah.
feel bad.
Correct. And at the end of the day, you feel worse for that person because it's like, look, like I know I'm going to make money. I
Right.
know I can sell, and I have enough good people that I know are going to sell, but like I feel bad for you.
Right. They can scam you once.
Correct.
Now they got to go find someone else.
Correct.
I
And
understand.
it is what it is.
And there are people that go from thing to thing to thing, just
Yes.
living off these advances.
Yes.
I've experienced all that.
And you're going to get caught eventually.
Yeah, well,
It's just
eventually it
hard.
runs out.
Correct.
You can only go on that road so long.
But the crazy thing of like that is the the worst.
That's
thing I've
worse.
dealt
That's
with
not
it.
bad.
Yeah, that's
No $1 million lawsuits, no arbitration.
nothing yet.
all that
No,
kind of
no
stuff.
lawsuits.
Yeah,
Thank God. I don't need any of that.
I've
in
been
my
through all
life.
that shit. It's crazy.
Yeah, I haven't had that. But I mean, those things are things that are a pain, and then just you deal with it like anything else.
Okay. See, we've covered so many great things here. It's amazing. What advice would you give someone just getting started who's unsure about taking the leap?
Bet on yourself.
Always,
number
right?
one. I think you need to bet on yourself. You need to make sure and do your research that you're in the right vehicle, because you can bet on yourself and you can be in sales, but if you're trying to sell, ice cubes to an Eskimo,
Right.
it's not going to work for you. So you got to do your research, but bet on yourself and put in the work and understand that like when negative things happen, when people tell you no, like when things are just not going your way, if you know you're in an industry that's working and you see people that are successful, don't quit 5 minutes in.
Correct.
The biggest thing now, you see it online all the time, right? You see how many people, maybe they're Facebook friends or whatever, oh, hey, I'm doing road and fields today. And then 2 months, and they're so fired up about it.
Right.
And then 2 months later, they're doing this, and then they're doing this.
Always doing something.
And again, it's not to say don't do multiple things, like we just said, do real estate, do this, do that. But one, commit to something, and understand that like it's gonna suck sometimes. Like
it's gonna suck.
It's gonna suck. Like so, we weren't doing virtual for up to whatever 2-3 years ago. So we were all in home.
What do you mean? Well, say that again.
So meaning like selling like prior to the pandemic, pretty much everything was I would get a lead, I would call you, I'd go to your house. Right?
Really?
Yeah.
What if you can't go to that? What if it's in Michigan, let's say?
Well, so locally.
Right.
So like I'm running leads, and I would run Broward, Dade, Palm Beach.
So you're really doing these numbers like sort of locally?
Correct. So now I'm driving. So I dial on Mondays, Thursdays, and I run appointments Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And
Physically drive.
Physically
and sit
drive.
down. I love that.
Yeah. So and the goal was like 30 appointments a week, right? Give or take. So you're driving, and South Florida, like it's crazy. Like there's it's wild. Like every place you go is a little different. Delray's different than Miami, obviously.
The traffic is so bad.
Traffic.
Oh my God.
And then you got people. Hey, you go to their house and they forgot the appointment. Hey, they no-show you. Hey, they don't let you in. Hey, they don't like you. They don't buy from you. And the problem is with a lot of people, they look at that and they're like, I can't do this. This is hard.
Rejection.
But then you keep going, and then you sell somebody one that pays you $7,000 or whatever.
Right.
So that's my advice to people. You have to go at it and you have to like play the numbers, and you also have to play the schedule and just not quit. Like
not quit.
It works.
Could you do the business virtually now?
Now you can do it 100% virtually.
You could.
100%. Yeah. Because you're basically getting licensed in all the states. You're doing Zoom. You're hopping with people on a Zoom. You're hopping with them on the phone. Is the close ratio as good as an in-home? No.
Nothing's as good
Nothing
as
is.
like this. Just
Correct.
You get to know someone. You feel their presence.
Right. But you can equate for it in the sense of like you just have more appointments.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Bang them out. Boom, boom, boom.
It might
boom.
cost you a little bit more in leads. It might cost you a little bit more time, whatever. But there's plenty of people that do it 100% virtually.
And make money.
And make a lot of money.
Right.
I make a lot of money now virtually. I just like to break it up and do both.
Right.
Just because like I have a home office. I love it. I love working from home, whatever. But to do it 5-6 days, like I need to.
You need to get out.
I need to get some sun
understand.
and drive around a little bit.
It's
you know what
I do. I get it 100%. And you have a great physical presence. So you got to use every tool in your toolbox, right?
I think that's big. I think the way you come across with people,
Right. What would you wear to an appointment?
It's actually funny you say that. So I'm a big suit guy,
Yeah.
and people are like, "Oh, you must wear suits to appointments. That's why you sell so much." I'm like, "No, it's actually the opposite. I wear old gym shorts and an old beat up polo." And I'll tell you why. Most of the people I'm meeting with, low to middle
Right.
American income. If I walk in with a suit and I drive up with my Escalade,
Right.
they're gonna be like, "This guy's just here to make money
Right.
on me, to make more money than he's
Right.
already got."
It's the old stereotype.
But if I roll in like I got the same pair of shorts probably for 5 years. I don't know. They're comfortable.
You
I
literally
them.
wear shorts?
I wear shorts. Oh, yeah. People all the time, they're like, you wear shorts to appointments? I'm like, yeah, why not? It's hot.
It's hot. It's so
South
crazy.
Florida.
It's
Like,
so
what do
crazy.
you want?
I know. It's sometimes guys say to me, how come you're not wearing a jacket? I'm looking at them. It's 88 degrees out.
Correct.
You want me to wear a jacket? I gotta be. These women are walking around. They got no clothes on, and it's so acceptable. And you want me to wear a fucking long sleeve shirt, a tie, and a jacket?
Right.
I said, forget it. I'm not doing it.
And here's the thing, too. Even, like, I get it, looks are first impressions. But even if, let's say because, again, I do have plenty of clients that are high-end, whatever. If I walked in like that and they gave me that first look and they didn't like it or whatever, and they felt like I was underdressed.
Well, people judge.
Correct.
You know that.
But here's what you do in sales. You overcome it by the way your posture, right? Your eye contact and the way that you talk and the way that you present the product. So the minute I hit that, they don't care that I'm wearing shorts.
I get it.
I gave you credibility in the way I spoke to you.
It also shows a degree of confidence.
Right.
The nervous person is wearing the suit and tie. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I don't have to dress like that anymore. I'm
Correct.
not nervous.
You're trying to compensate.
Right. My content, what I have, the power I have to share, you just want to hear what I have to say. It doesn't matter what I look like.
Correct.
I have some young guys that are really trying to build big presence in the influencer space. And they're good. They have a lot of money and they're young and they wear, $3,000-$4,000 suits and, all this stuff. I did all that already. I don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
I have a resume. So that's great. Big question. I think I might know the answer, but I have to ask the question. Like, how do you define success today? And has that changed over time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say defining success is one, are you a good person? Are you a good man? Are you a good husband? Are you a good father? Can you provide? And I also think success is different for people. Are you happy?
Right.
I think that is success. I mean, look, money is not everything, but I will say this: money and the ability, and what we both do, it allows us to provide things for like for my children.
Right.
So when I think of success, it's like, okay, I'm not going to spoil my kids. They're going to work hard. They're going to understand what it takes. But I like the fact that they can go and I can pay for them to go to basketball practice, or they can go to a Bible study, or they can go to, we're probably going to homeschool them. That we can homeschool them.
You're going to do homeschool?
Yeah. To me, that's success.
Your wife teaches? Is that?
Yeah, she wasn't, but that's her thing. She wants to homeschool them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a big thing though.
It's a huge thing. It's like a whole new world that we're learning
Right.
with homeschooling. But I mean, look at a lot of entrepreneurs. That's kind of like their thing.
Well, because when you look at what happens in these friggin' schools, they
Correct.
don't learn anything. I hate to
Right.
say it. It's
Yes.
horrible what's going on.
Yeah.
This country is really,
It's awful.
Trump wants to get rid of the Department of Education. Get rid of it.
Right.
The
Don't
fuck
need
do
it.
they do in Washington? They take
Yes.
our money and they have all these crazy ideas.
Yep.
I think we rank 40th in the country.
Yeah.
In the world, 42 in math and reading scores. Terrible.
Yeah, it's horrendous.
I don't blame you at all. All right, this is rapid fire.
Okay, I love it.
Okay?
Let's go.
One word to describe your journey so far.
Intriguing.
Great word. Wow. A book, a quote, or a mindset that has changed your life.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I just the other day had the chairman, CEO of the Napoleon Hill Institute.
Oh, neat.
Shout out David Meltzer. David, we're shaking, baby. We've been in touch since.
Cool.
Yeah, he was Lee Steinberg's partner for many years.
Oh, okay.
Tom Cruise. They made the movie Jerry Maguire about
Yep,
him and
yep.
his whole business. But Think and Grow Rich. I recommend Think and Grow Rich. That was the first book I read when I went to Wall Street in 1983. First book, Think and Grow Rich. Really is something. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Easy. Get into sales. Get out of
Fuck
corporate
culinary
America.
school.
Yeah, correct.
Fuck
Go
hospitality.
right into sales.
I love it, bro. I love it. You're my kind of guy. Anything that you want to add on that we haven't touched?
We touched a lot, and I want to thank
We
you because
have.
this has been really cool, and I appreciate you doing your homework and
You're my kind of guy. I hate to say it.
looking into my boring self. That's good.
There's nothing boring about you. You are like a prototype or a model of what I think a man should be.
Thank you.
I really believe that.
Appreciate it.
At 68 years old, the one thing that happens, you're not entitled, but I feel, I've experienced so much and I've seen so much. If I had to design a man, this is what I would want.
Thank you.
This is what I want: a good person, church-going, God-fearing, a man that, listen, overcame a mistake. We talk about the marriage.
Yeah, for sure.
The women say, I love this, I had to kiss a lot of frogs to get my prince.
Right.
We had to kiss quite a few princesses to get our queen.
This is true.
And Margot's the queen. And it's just a privilege now to do this with you and to have you as a friend in my life.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for coming, Steve. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Great.
So I'd say, last thing would just be, follow your dreams, follow your journey, put in the work, and understand that even though nowadays technology and AI and all that stuff is like a tool, nothing will ever replace hard work. But work hard and use that stuff to work smart and be in the right vehicles and just have no fear.
No fear.
And go after the things you want. And also the other thing I'd say is never stop learning. Like a lot of people, when I go to like conferences for my company and everything, they're coming up to me, oh my God, like how do you do what you do? How do you do what you do? And the one thing I always say is I never stop putting in time to learn, and I never sit there and act like I know it all.
Love it.
Like I know a lot. I've learned a lot. I know more today than I knew 7 years ago prior to doing everything. But if you ever sit there and you're like, well, I got it all figured out. Like I more feel like I don't have it figured out than I do.
You want to know, I hate to say it, it's a healthy attitude, and you probably don't know. Because imagine you 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
You know a little bit more now than you did 10 years ago?
100%.
I promise you 10 years from now, you'll know so much more than the guy sitting here.
Amen.
I hope I get you on my podcast in 10 years.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
That means I made 10 years. All right, bro. It's so great meeting you. I really appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.